Alright guys, hello everyone. This is going to be my AOE guide. That is right, AOE guide for things like Mythic Plus or whatever else you do that involves lots of AOE. You could even go for mini boss fights in Nighthold. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the general AOE rotation, and then we'll go into talents and how to use talents to your advantage. And that'll pretty much be it. I'll end off the video just showing a little bit of an AoE rotation in action, as well as how much DPS you can do and like kind of breakdowns of what you should expect. So the first thing to note is Flame Shock. You should Flame Shock up to 3 targets. So on 1, 2, or 3 targets, you should apply Flame Shock. Any more than that, do not. Now you can cast Lava Burst for 2 or less targets, but on 3 or more targets, only react to Lava Surge procs. So you can use Lava Surge for the instant cast Lava Burst, pretty much only on like 3 targets, maybe 4. Any above that, then just ignore them, especially because you're not going to have Flame Shock applied. Now the general rule of thumb is you always chain lightning as long as there are 2 or more. So if there's 2 targets, chain lightning. If there's 10 targets, chain lightning. And as for Earthquake, you should always drop an Earthquake if there are 3 targets or more, and if for specifically 3 targets, as long as the entire duration of Earthquake will be beneficial and they will not be moved out of the AoE. As you go up in the ranks, obviously if you have like 4 or 5 or even more targets, then your Earthquake will become much more valuable, and you won't need to worry about it, some mobs dying while the duration is going on. And yeah, so that's about the main rotation here. So I'm going to talk about talents next. Oh, and Elemental Blast. You can use Elemental Blast on AoE up to about, I don't know, it's kind of mixed here, but maybe about 4 targets generally. Try to have that be the first thing you cast though, like maybe in a Trash Pack in Mythic Plus, just cast your Elemental Blast first, get the buff, and then just do an AoE rotation. And it's probably okay not to refresh it, but you definitely can if it's like maybe 4 targets, maybe even 5, something like that or less. So the main targets, or the main talents, excuse me, that I'm going to talk about are Totem Mastery, Liquid Magma Totem, and Lightning Rod. So let's just go ahead, I'm going to get these talents real fast. So Chain Lightning, let me show my stats. Right now I have 86.52% Mastery, and the deal with Chain Lightning is that it is only benefited by 1/3 of your mastery. So if I have here 87% mastery, Chain Lightning only benefits essentially from 29%. However, I believe the way it works is that each individual target hit has a 29% chance, I'm going to keep using that as my number for my example, has a 29% chance to proc an overload. So if there are 5 targets that you're hitting with your Chain Lightning, I believe every single individual target has a chance to proc an overload at a 29% chance. So obviously the more targets there are, the better chance you have of just doing more damage, but as a whole, mastery for AoE is not the best. So what I want to talk about is Totem Mastery. You'll see the Storm Totem, the second one there, increase the chance for Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning to trigger Elemental Overload by 10%. It's important to note that that is not Mastery, that is just a straight 10% extra chance. So that essentially makes your chance to overload all the way up to 39% using my current Mastery chance per target hit. So the value of Totem Mastery is extremely strong. It also gives you the extra stuff here like extra Maelstrom and haste and stuff. The haste is very important. Now I want to talk about Liquid Magma Totem. It's just a very strong cooldown on 1 minute cooldown that just essentially what you're going to be doing with it is, I don't have that bound, no, there you go. So essentially what you want to do is you want to keep it, you want to place it on the mobs or wherever they're going to be, and you want to make sure that the totem is within AoE of the mobs. It's essentially like an earthquake. You want the mobs to stay in the AoE of the totem. And the totem has a chance, you know, every attack it does, it splashes in an 8-yard radius, so if there's a lot of targets, it does a lot of damage. I want to show real fast on, let's just say it's a 3-target scenario. Just going to drop it real fast. I'm just going to cast some Chain Lightnings while we wait. And we're going to see how much damage the Liquid Magma Totem does in this duration. And it should be about done here. 1 second. Alright, so in one global cooldown on only 3 targets, it dealt 6.47 million damage. And that's on a 1-minute cooldown. So that's very useful on a lot of trash packs or even specific bosses in Nighthold where mobs come at a fairly predictable rate, such as Spellblade Alluriel. Alright, and the last one we're going to talk about is Lightning Rod. So Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have a 30% chance to make the primary target a Lightning Rod for 10 seconds, which allows them to take 40% additional damage based off your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. Now the important thing to note with Lightning Rod is that you can have more than one target affected by this. So for example, I'll just go on the 3 here. I'm going to go until I get Lightning Rod proc. Might take forever, who knows. There's one, now you switch targets. Maybe we'll get a second here, who knows. Or there we go, there's a second, well we still have that one up. So what you can do is you can try to, see there's 2 right there. So now you're getting 80% extra damage, and with that one it's 120% extra damage. As you can see, Lightning Rod did 32% of my damage just on 3 targets. Like that's extremely strong, and you want to make sure that you're always applying Lightning Rod to as many targets as possible. It is hard to do, but it is, you know, it can be gamed a little bit. That if you always switch targets while casting, you'll know that your next cast might not have, you know, the same chance to hit on the same target. So if you swap casts every single time, once a Lightning Rod appears, you'll already be casting on the next target with a chance to give you another Lightning Rod proc. And I'm just getting horrible procs right here. This is actually embarrassing. See, just like that. Oh wow, look at that. Let's go ahead and use a Stormkeeper. So, pretty much Lightning Rod is of extremely valuable talent in AOE, and you're going to be wanting to do it just like I was doing, getting as many up as you can. And I want to talk about your stats. So, on single target situations, purely single target, Mastery and Crit are actually the best stats for Lightning Rod, which is very useful. However, for AOE, the talent or the stat weights completely shift into a lot of haste. You want a lot of haste. The value of haste for Lightning Rod is as follows. You're getting straight up more casts off, which means you have more overall chance to apply Lightning Rod to many targets, just based off of your extra casts you're getting off. You have more consistent and fluid Maelstrom generation due to extra casts being off, which allow you to get extra Earthquakes off. And you also get the benefit from Earthquake breakpoints for the ticks. Now, Earthquake, the tick breakpoints are 16.66% and 33.33%, and you keep going up just like that every 16.66%. So once you hit those breakpoints, then you're getting an extra tick out of every Earthquake cast, which is very important, and I want to show off some Earthquake damage. So I'm just going to drop a couple Earthquakes and then continue AoEing here. I'm just going to continue AoEing until the Earthquakes expire. There they go. So in 2 Earthquake casts, I did almost 3 million damage. Now this is only on 3 targets. The more targets there are, the higher it goes up, especially since Chain Lightning caps at 5 targets while Earthquake does not. It is also important to note that Earthquake does benefit from Elemental Focus. I'm going to go ahead and get a proc right here. 20% extra damage on your next Earthquake, or 2 if you have 2 of your Elemental Focus things. So just using Elemental Focus, making sure your Earthquakes are buffed, and keeping those Earthquakes down do a lot of damage. In 1 GCD, or 2 in that situation, they dealt over 2 million damage, only to be increased further by actual haste on your gear, which I do not have. I only have 21%. As well as the Elemental Focus procs. So, I'm pretty much going to show you a little bit of an AoE rotation here. Now, I am going to use my trusty, sturdy Love Fool, drop an extra thing down to get a 4th target here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop Lust, I'm just going to AOE and just do a bunch of AOE damage real fast so you can get a sense of really what you want to be accomplishing in an AOE rotation. So let's start it off. I don't have that key bound, I'll just click it for now. I'm just going to open with an Elemental Blast. Let's get Lust out. Let's drop a Liquid Magma Totem. Now the reason why I just casted all of my Stormkeeper charges at once there is because I wanted to make sure that they were all buffed with all 4 of the Lightning Rods that I currently had active. Generally you want to try to avoid overcapping your Maelstrom, but it's going to be extremely hard, and keep in mind that when you have a lot of Lightning Rods up, like if you have 4 Lightning Rods up, you're likely going to get more overall damage out of Chain Lightning cast than you would out of Earthquake. So in those situations, especially for burst, I recommend continuing to cast Chain Lightning as opposed to just casting Chain Lightnings and Earthquakes. Although it does seem like Earthquake is not worth the global cooldown, it definitely is, especially on higher target counts. So you just want to keep going from there. Let's go ahead and drop another one of those. Drop a couple of Earthquakes. So as you can see by my damage breakdown here, Lightning Rod is actually a majority of my damage. And I'm going to go ahead and be done now. So Lightning Rod was 30% of my total AoE damage there. The overload from Chain Lightning, especially thanks to my totems here, giving me 27% of my damage with just overload chances. Earthquake on 4 targets was 16.8% of my damage, but do note that it is worth casting, like I mentioned, probably until you have like 2 to 3 Lightning Rods out. Once you have so many Lightning Rods like that out, your Chain Lightning and the overloads, as well as the Lightning Rod damage itself, is just going to outpace what Earthquake can do, especially in burst situations. Liquid Magma Totem in 2 casts on 4 targets hit 16.44 million. So that was about 8.2 million damage in just 1 GCD cast. Everything else is pretty irrelevant here. Let's look at my overall damage. On 4 targets here, my overall DPS over the course of about a minute and 15 seconds or whatever it was. How much is it actually? A minute and 33 seconds. 2.25 million sustained DPS over a minute and a half. Once you know how to game proper talents, like using the Lightning Rod and making sure you can get as many as possible, as well as actually having the stats to benefit it, which I do not really have any haste gear. Generally, you would probably want about maybe 30 to 35% haste and 30% crit for AoE in particular. And what you can do for Mythic Plus is have a separate gear set and either have a macro or use your equipment manager to swap back your single target gear for bosses. Get the most benefit that you can out of Mythic Plus and save that extra time. So again, just spam the fuck out of Chain Lightning, get those Earthquakes down, make sure you're getting multiple Lightning Rods up, keep your things on cooldown, your totems down always, use your Liquid Magma Totem, it does a lot of damage, and you'll be good to go. So that is pretty much my AoE guide, that's what I have for you guys. I would also recommend not really using Ascendance. If you were using Ascendance instead of Lightning Rod, try to time Ascendance for situations that you're only going to be using it on a single target, as you're wasting the bulk of the cooldown, because it gives you increased single target damage way more than increased AoE damage. The AoE damage output is barely higher than you would normally have, especially if you're using Lightning Rod. So if you are using Ascendance, just really try to use it at a time in the boss fight where there's only one target, so you get most use of it, and then AoE either before or after it. So that is all I got for you guys. I hope this was helpful, and good luck in your Mythic Pluses and in Nighthold. See you guys in my next video. Bye.